Hi guys, and thank you for joining us again on Let's Talk Travel. Today we've got two more guests, Craig and Rhonna, and they've also got a YouTube channel and an Instagram platform. So do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Craig, Rhonna here. We've been together for about roughly 3 years now. We've been traveling throughout all of that time, but only recently we set up our Instagram and channel, which is called the Couple of Adventurers. So, yeah, please do check it out if you're wishing to. And we've just uploaded our most recent videos of our travels to Venice, and we're just starting to upload our videos from our trip at the end of last year to Turkey.
Yep, which will be a 2-part series. So hopefully we'll have that up for you guys pretty soon.
Great. So I'll leave the links for your channels below so that the guys can check it out. So we'll start the conversation about Venice because you guys actually went during coronavirus. Is that right?
We did, yeah. We went in August. We were actually booked to go to Spain, but because of the government restrictions, we would have had to quarantine when we came back.
Yeah.
So we had to look around to see where else we might be able to go. And Italy was still open and non-quarantinable at that point.
Yeah, no, so Venice is one of those things. It's a place I've wanted to go to for so many years, and particularly that time of the year, August. All you think then it's going to be heaving with tourists and cruise ships and things like that. So with a cheap flight deal, plus then the limited amount of tourists, then actually it's a perfect opportunity, possibly once in a lifetime, to actually visit this year and have Venice a little bit more to yourself than you would otherwise.
Yeah. Have you guys been to Venice before that?
Okay.
No.
I've hopped around Italy quite a bit, not just for football reasons, watching football, but also just some other places.
Yeah.
It's actually probably my favourite country in Europe, I'd go as far as saying. So any opportunity to go, I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah, and I've only really I went to Tuscany a couple of years in a row with family to the same sort of villa, the same area. But
yeah.
In Umbria was all I'd really seen before, so it was good to go experience a different side of Italy.
Yeah, so I watched your video in Venice, and I noticed like a huge contrast to how it is like on a normal kind of holiday, and there was only like a fraction of the people there. There's literally hardly anyone there. Did it kind of feel weird, kind of being on holiday?
A little bit.
Yeah, there's this. I suppose it was because before COVID started, before all the lockdowns happened everywhere, we visited Marrakesh, which everyone was still traveling at that time. There were no restrictions, and then it was months then until August by the time we then got to go, and it did feel weird being at the airport at the beginning and things like that.
Having to wear the masks everywhere was a bit strange, but
it sort of felt. It was more of a relief, actually, just to be able to do something that felt a little bit more normal, maybe. It's the first instance we'd had that for quite some time.
Yeah. And did you notice that a lot of the, like, for example, the attraction stuff was still available, or was there any restrictions on some of the things you could do?
Mostly we did get to do everything we wanted to. It was really interesting having watched other people's YouTube channel vlogs of Venice, seeing people queuing for gondolas and things like that, because we didn't see any queues for the gondolas. We had a tiny queue at the Doge Palace and a bit of a queue for the big tower.
All in all, it was quite fine. But I see if you and I have discussed, because you've been to Venice yourself. When you visited Venice again?
I went just before the lockdown, so it was in February.
So you'd have definitely noticed then the contrast between going, and it was probably still quite busy, even if maybe it was slightly colder. But, I know from our conversations, it'd be quite interesting seeing that contrast that you've been able to notice. Yeah,
because I went out of season and it was still a lot busier than when you guys had been. Obviously, summer and late summer is usually like the busiest kind of time, and there was, like you said, there was hardly any queues for any of the things that you'd expect there to be queues for, and I guess that kind of works in your favour, I suppose. You get
there was space in pretty much all the restaurants as well. We didn't really have to wait or move on to a different one because of no space, so that was quite good as well.
Yeah, that's why I say it's probably one of those once in a lifetime opportunities to ever see Venice like that. So I'm sure once restrictions start to ease up, maybe as vaccinations get rolled out in the next few months, I'm sure Venice will be back to its old ways, perhaps. But been aware. I know Venice is also talked about as one of the most overly tourist places in the world as well. So potentially it could also be a chance for the city to breathe again. And
the canals were sort of green rather than brown.
Because we see fish.
We actually saw fish, which I gather that this is quite unusual. So that was nice to see.
Really interesting to see that.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's amazing. Obviously, Venice is one of those places where you kind of have to tick off your bucket list, because to say like in the future it might not exist because the rising water levels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And for you guys to experience it whilst there's a lack of tourism is a bonus, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Even the gondola ride felt. It's basically it's quite peaceful anyway. I'm not sure if you took one yourself whilst you were there, Steve, but with not many, there was no traffic jams that I've seen years of previously. It actually felt it was quite tranquil, which which is normally not something you get from a city break.
No. Well, when Venice is associated to like the romantic side of it and stuff like that, and I suppose when there's like hundreds or thousands of people around, you don't kind of get that kind of romantic feeling. But I guess with the privacy, you probably got that atmosphere that you probably wanted.
Yeah, it was actually.
Yeah, I think it was
really nice, really relaxing.
Definitely it pretty much almost exactly how I would have wanted it to have been as a destination, which I don't think we might not have got if we'd have gone at the same time of year in 2019. I think we wouldn't have found it the same. I can imagine actually it'd be quite frustrating it would have taken double the length of time to have gotten everywhere in the city as well, because the streets are so narrow.
Yeah, the only downside I think probably was that not all the restaurants and bars and things were open. Quite a lot of them were still closed.
All right. And where did you guys stay?
It was the Hotel de Dragamani, I believe.
We can't remember how to pronounce it, but it was just we always knew it was going to be quite an expensive place to go to anyway. You have to do the gondola ride and stuff, so we tried to make our accommodation a little bit cheaper. Also, I know there's a wealth of amazing top quality hotels, but the place we were in was perfectly good enough and really central as well. Yeah,
we had quite a lot of choice, even though we booked I think about 3 days before we actually went. We only booked our flights 6 days before we went.
Oh wow.
Scared of restrictions changing. Decided to go for it and booked the hotel literally days before, and loads of choice.
Loads of choice and still really cheap in comparison to what it would have been like in August.
That's the advantage, I suppose. And like you said, you booked it a few days beforehand, where in other cases you might not even have the availability.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I suppose we might have stayed in a hostel on another scenario, but actually looking around, we couldn't really find any in the centre of Venice.
Most of them seem to be on the mainland.
Yeah, I can't remember what the city was called, but it would have been there would have been more commuting and things, and actually it would just be right bang in the centre. Yeah,
well, we stayed in Mestre, which was just on the mainland.
So there was a lot more variety there. But I think because we were there for such a short period of time, we wanted to, and we always have. I know it's only a weekend break, was it 3-4 days? But we always have a list longer than it's actually physically possible of things I can see. So by saving a little bit of time in the middle, there's a lot of
cram more in.
Yeah. And how did you rate Venice as a whole?
I really liked it. I thought it was worth the hype. I wasn't sure if it would be, but
I think as I say, it was exactly how I wanted it to be, and being there at that time of year as well, it was lovely and warm. We went to the beach.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Dip into the sea. So 100% I'd go. And it's not just the Venice, the main island itself. There's the other islands of Murano. So actually, when you look into it, there's so much to see and do, which you would have experienced yourself. It's one of those actually you could go back again and there'd still be more to do that you didn't get round to the first time.
Yeah, it's made up of hundreds of islands, so and people generally tend to stick to like the main one.
Yeah, exactly. And the transport links, the vaporettos between them all, they were quick, efficient, not super cheap, I guess, but still, it was really easy to do.
Yeah. So is it a place you'd go back to, or?
I think so. The whole place sort of almost feels like a film set, like a fairy tale, like it shouldn't actually be real, but.
Yeah, I suppose one day, if ever wanted to come into a little bit more money, you could go out there and maybe splash out a little bit more on a bit more of the luxury side of Venice, and that would be pretty cool as well. But I don't see that happening in the next couple of years, perhaps.
So move it.
Oh, sorry. Would you go back, Steve?
I probably would go back maybe with my wife, because the last time I went, it was with like two of my brother, with my brother and my sister and my dad. It was more like a family holiday.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd probably go back with my wife and kind of experience it in a different kind of light. Because I suppose,
Recommend that, yeah.
yeah, any kind of holiday you go on, it's kind of different depending on the people you're with as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So just moving on to another place that you guys have been to recently, which is Turkey. So when did you guys go to Turkey?
It was the last 2 weeks of September.
Yeah, so it's
3 months ago now.
Yeah, it's always been a sort of time we kind of looked to go away anyway. Just it's after the summer rush. The prices come down a little bit, and it was
Still warm generally.
yeah, and it was still. And COVID cases again were on the rise slightly, so it was the sort of last opportunity to maybe get away before things got as bad as they have done right now. So
yeah. Was that always planned, like, or was that like a last minute kind of thing again?
It was very last minute, actually. We'd actually been planning to maybe go to Albania or somewhere like that around September, but their borders weren't open, so...
Yeah, it was. I think we were really scrambling along the list of which places were still allowing Brits particularly in. So that was,
and that we wouldn't have to quarantine for 2 weeks on the way back, ideally.
Yes, and somewhere where we could still have a backpacking experience as well.
Yeah.
We tend not to do too much of the staying in one location sort of thing. So to actually tour around a country as big as Turkey and have that freedom, it was just jump straight to the list, to top the list.
Yeah, Turkey is amazing because there's so many cities and there's so much like history there, culture, the food's amazing. And you guys went to quite a few places, didn't you, in Turkey?
We did, yeah. We flew to Istanbul, spent a few days there.
And flew in, so took a load of internal flights and coach trips. We went to Cappadocia, which I know is an Instagram heaven for many people.
Which again did not disappoint at all.
No, amazing place.
It is just as amazing as it looks in the photos.
Cappadocia. I went to Cappadocia in last December, so it's been a year now, and yeah, I do agree. It is amazing. It is actually amazing. There's a lot of things to do and a lot to see, and you can't really capture it on camera. You kind of have to take it all in.
No. Did you do a hot air balloon flight while you were there?
I didn't, unfortunately. This is quite common with me. It's like whenever I book anything air related, they get cancelled due to like the weather and stuff like that. So due to the bad winds and stuff, the hot air balloon got cancelled. I've also had paragliding booked in different places, like when I went to South Africa and places like that, and they also got cancelled due to winds.
Oh, no.
Well, I think that's pretty much confirmed that we're not going on any trips with you then.
So after Cappadocia, where did you guys go on to from there?
Down to the south coast of Turkey then, so flew to the city of Antalya, which is pretty much the capital of the turquoise coast. So much to see and do there, not just, so it was a bit of a holiday within holiday, we had a bit of beach time, but also along that coastline and heading up north side is where a lot of the ancient cities are. There's national parks,
waterfalls,
loads of adventure sports you could do if you wanted to as well.
Yeah, we didn't quite have time to fit those in, but some friends we made went canyoning and water rafting.
Yeah, and paragliding as well.
Yeah, paragliding's quite common around there, so yeah.
So by that time you've been to 3 cities in Turkey, I suppose. Did you notice the contrast, because they're very different, aren't they?
Very much so, yeah.
Well, Istanbul is it spans 2 continents. It's both Europe and Asia, but it still feels like a really, really modern metropolis. It's very European in its looks, its sort of architecture, but then its food has all the Asian Turkish side as well. So it's a contrast. It's a sort of melting pot of so many cultures. It's just a fascinating place.
Yeah, it was a really good, really fun city.
But then you get down to Antalya, and it's a bit more Mediterranean. It feels like a typical Mediterranean place. You could be in Italy, you could be in Greece, but then of course as a result you then sort of get the slight resort feel about the place.
Yeah, it was almost felt busier than Istanbul itself in a way.
Yeah,
that's surprising, because Istanbul's like one of the biggest cities in the world.
Yeah.
I think there's like over 20 million people. So you found that to be less busier than Antalya. That's amazing.
I think perhaps just because there was sort of everyone was concentrated in a smaller space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Istanbul felt cultural, whereas Antalya there was a lot of bars and restaurants that spill out onto the streets.
Yeah, just loads of people everywhere.
It feels
Okay.
feels like there's more happening, even though there's less to see in the city of Antalya.
Yeah.
Istanbul,
it's much more spread out.
A lot more spread out. You can walk down some little side streets and not see anyone for 5 to 10 minutes. So one day we went trying to look for the Grand Bazaar.
Yeah.
But on Sundays it's not open.
Which we didn't research very well.
Probably should have. We went to, because it wasn't open, there's no hustle and bustle around those little streets.
It was empty.
It was just, all we saw was stray cats. We didn't see barely a single person.
And some other British tourists who made the same mistake as us and were also looking for it.
Yeah.
But
probably a common mistake, to be fair.
I'd imagine so, yeah. So we only got to see a little bit of the Grand Bazaar.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but I'm sure we'll be back one day.
Yeah, 100%. Istanbul, it's so, again, another place, so much to see and do. At one point we were toying with the idea of if restrictions lasted so long in this country, should we just up sticks and go and move out there for a few months?
Yeah, that's how much we liked it. But now they're under loads of restrictions themselves.
Now they have lockdown as well. So,
what were some of the things that you really liked?
It just had a really good vibe.
And it's just its diversity of the place. We live in London, of course, that's such a diverse city anyway, but it still feels like the capital of Great Britain. But Istanbul felt you could go down different parts of the city and you could feel like you were anywhere in the world almost.
Yeah.
And we loved the food. The food was amazing. The people were really, really nice, really friendly.
And it's very affordable. Even some of we splashed out a couple. So we were there for my birthday at the end of the trip as well. So we splashed out on one of sort of the nice rooftop restaurants overlooking the Bosphorus Strait.
Yeah.
And with wine and a couple of courses, it came nowhere near breaking the bank. So for something like that, if you paid for the same quality, the same view in London, you would have needed to take out a small mortgage perhaps.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then when you moved on to what was it Pamukkale you guys went to?
Pamukkale. We only spent one night there because other than the terraces and the ancient city up at the top, there's not actually a lot else there.
No, the small village that's at the bottom, whereas the accommodation are a couple of restaurants. That's basically it. And
again, I think we were slightly unlucky in the sense that quite a lot of it was closed because obviously they're not getting the tourist footfall that they need to have everything open.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot going on there.
No. But I suppose like the interesting bits, we'll talk about like how beautiful it is in it, but it was also what was interesting was that's when we started taking internal coach journeys. So from Antalya to Pamukkale, we took a coach, which was
3 hours.
Maybe a bit more.
3.5 hours.
It cost £2.50, and you got a TV and an in-flight,
in journey, in transit
meal. We got bits of food.
We got ice cream,
water.
Wow.
It was probably the most comfortable bus I think I've ever been on in my life. So
yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, it's like having a free ride, I suppose, with your food.
Yeah,
exactly.
And again, we might have been lucky in that we didn't have to be that competitive to get a seat on the bus because there were not that many other people around.
Oh, yeah, I think they were limiting the seats.
Yeah,
so.
But normally they might book up a lot quicker, so you might have to think a bit further in advance.
Yeah, possibly. Well, we were able to book either on the day or the day before, times, weren't we?
Yeah, because you can't book things online as a tourist.
Yeah, you need a special
coach.
Yeah.
Okay. So the people who were traveling on this coach, were they locals or were they also tourists?
I think a combination. Possibly more local.
I would say more Turkish people. There was just only a handful of other tourists. So all in all, I think apart from Istanbul, where there were quite a few, everywhere else. So we mostly stayed in hostels and we met small groups there, but the hostels were never more than half full.
No,
we didn't really see that many tourists around, and I think in Antalya most of the tourists we saw were probably Turkish people again.
Or Russian. We saw quite a lot of Russian.
A few Russians, but other than that, I think it was just people taking advantage local Turkish people taking advantage of getting to the beach. But it was quite interesting to see how few tourists there were at all times, I think.
And what were like other tourists' reactions to the whole situation in regards to travel?
Well, quite interestingly, most of the tourists we met were actually
they were American, largely.
American and Canadian.
Or British.
Yes, because at the time Turkey was the only place letting anyone in from those countries.
Yeah, I think Americans could either go to Mexico or Turkey, and that was literally it at the time. So
given that a lot of them were those nationalities, obviously Brits one of the few places they could get to, I just think they were just so happy to be able to be out of the country.
Yeah.
But the restrictions, I think. It was hard to actually try and work out what the Turkish restrictions were.
Yeah, other than wearing face masks in the street,
But then there were times where we were in a couple of bars and restaurants and things where there was definitely no enforced social distancing whatsoever. So it was a bit of I think it was there were rules, but they were never followed up on. They were never enforced. And if a police officer maybe walked past and everyone would rush to put masks on or whatever. But
that happened in one of the hostels actually.
Yeah, exactly. Most tourists, they did try to take it as seriously as they would back in the UK, because I think it's just, we were so grateful to have a country that we could go and visit. So if everyone then spoils it by going off the rules, then
that's not
then it's what is the situation we have now where we can't go anywhere. But
So did anything interesting happen whilst you was out on your travels in Turkey that was really stood out?
Can we tell a story about John? Hopefully John will never watch this. And one of our American friends from California, it's so the national drink of Turkey is raki, which I know is different variations across other areas of that part of the world, in Albania, etc., Balkans. And we were drinking with some dinner, just taking it easy. But John, it's quite a harsh drink. I find it I can sip it a little bit, have a little bit, that's fine. But John was quite enjoying them.
Yeah, he'd never had it before, and he really went for it.
He really went for it. He became quite drunk, but still quite in himself, all good. And went for a quick dance outside where there's some live Turkish music going on. Came back, we went a little bit further away, and then all of a sudden his legs just gave way, and he had to be carried home.
By his poor girlfriend.
Yes, so that's one story.
That was quite funny. What about the ankle?
Yeah, so that's one story that maybe involves a bit too much alcohol. But then on the other one, we were in a hostel in Cappadocia, and went to just go and get a quick little drink from the poolside bar, and got speaking to the Colombian barman there, and just casually into conversation, just saw that I have tattoo, and he said, "Oh, you like tattoos? I'm a tattoo artist myself. In fact, I have a tattoo studio on the roof of the hostel."
One thing led to another.
And next thing I knew, I was giving him a few euros, and he was tattooing me on the top of the so show that I have a Cappadocia balloon.
Oh.
Cappadocia balloon to remember the trip, but
that's crazy.
But the other so memorable for me, the actual hot air balloon was actually my birthday present from Rhonna. So that for me was quite a nice story. But there were.
Good. We also we met a lot of people, but including a couple who were Canadian and Russian, and were only meeting for the second time ever, who got engaged in Cappadocia.
Wow.
So we had a massive party to celebrate that.
Was good fun.
So that was a cool story to be part of.
So a lot, there's some funny things like that, but I think all in all, is the people we met along the way were just fantastic. That's the good thing about travelling. You meet people from around the world, and you all have the same interests, so you all get on famously. But then I think, as you said at the beginning, Steve, Turkey is just, when you look at the loop we did around the country, it's barely a third of the country that we covered, to be honest. And within that small space, I'd been to Turkey once before and seen a couple of these things, but actually going and seeing some of the landscapes, some of the historical sites and things which are incomparable to anywhere else in the world, like Cappadocia does not exist in another place. So it's going away, having seen those things, is just
and seeing them with less people. Like Craig showed me photos of when he went to Ephesus like a few years before, and there were people everywhere, whereas we almost had it to ourselves. So it was nice to experience that without sort of being lost in crowds.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Okay, we're just gonna have a 2-minute break now. Just need to have some water and stuff. I'm sure you guys are a bit thirsty as well. So I'm just gonna pause the recording, but I'll keep the Skype call on.
Cool.
Okay, that's great. So there's another place I really want to talk about, a place which I really love, which is Morocco. So I seen you guys went to Marrakesh.
Yeah, we went for my birthday trip. We normally try and go away for a weekend around February, March, when my birthday is. And this time we thought we'd go to Marrakesh because it's quite hard to find somewhere in Europe that's actually warm around that time of year. So
when was that? What month is that in?
So we went the first week of March, although my birthday's actually the middle of February. But
Yeah.
for it to be a bit warmer, we tend to wait a little bit.
Yeah, compared to the UK at that time, it's definitely t-shirt weather still there for our climate. But it's such a great. It's only a 3-hour flight, 2.5-hour flight, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and you're going to another continent, which is.
Yeah, I've never been to Africa before at all, and to be fair, you've been to Marrakesh before.
Yeah, I'd been there a couple of years earlier because I went on a week-long trip with a tour company called Exodus, where we spent 5 days trekking the Atlas Mountains.
Oh wow!
Finishing with the ascent up Toubkal.
Wow, so you've done it. So you've done the highest peak in North Africa.
Yes, yeah. But that was so I spent a day or so in Marrakesh either side of that trip. But there's so much to see and do in that city, and on the outside of the city, where the day trips you can do to the various places around. It was definitely worth going back to for that second time. And like you, I absolutely love the place as well. It's got such a special, quite unique vibe. I'm sure there are maybe other places like that around North Africa. I know Fez, for example, it has some similarities, but it's like nowhere else I'd ever been before.
Yeah, it was completely different to anywhere I'd ever experienced before. It was fantastic. I'd love to go back one day.
So how many times have you been to Marrakesh, Steve?
I've been to Morocco 8 times.
Wow.
And this might sound a bit surprising, but Marrakesh is probably my least favourite amongst the cities I've been to.
I've heard people say similar. So where would you say is your favourite?
I think there's quite a few which I really like. I'd say one of the places which is also kind of Instagram famous is a place called Chefchaouen.
Oh, the blue city, is it?
Yeah. So that's very picturesque. The people are different. That's a nice place to go. I'd recommend that. That'd definitely have to be up there.
Definitely is, because I know you can get to it relatively easy from Fez.
Yeah.
Fez is a place I want to go, as well as well, in my head I've actually got a bit of a nice sort of trip through, starting in Fez, doing Chefchaouen, but then also Casablanca, Rabat, and then down to
Essaouira.
Essaouira. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Essaouira, yeah.
West Coast.
Yeah, it's a bit of coast there, but also sort of an old school sort of fishing town as well. So it's got a bit of character to it. So having only been to Marrakesh and then a bit of the mountains, and we dabbled into the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, we did a good day trip to Ben Hadou.
Yes. Yeah, but
that's amazing, isn't it?
It's incredible, the fact that that's a real place.
Yeah, and the fact when you realise, I already knew that a couple of films were filmed there anyway. So Gladiator, famously, and a bit
Game
of
Thrones.
Yeah.
And when you're there and you realise actually how many other films have been set at that location.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Really, really interesting.
It's a bit sad that not a lot of people still kind of live there. They've kind of set up stalls and stuff inside there.
It's the river.
Yeah, it's been very much commercialised. You walk down the little streets and it's full of like the little sort of gift shops and things. Which, people are always going to try and make money from things, absolutely.
But it's good that it's still preserved to the kind of.
We
got to go into one of the old sort of properly preserved houses.
Yeah, that would be cool. But I think it's a UNESCO heritage site, I guess. So which is good. It'll be there for a long, long time.
So lots of other people to enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's what I find amazing about there and quite a lot of places is that you kind of have the freedom and there's not so much restrictions on where you can kind of explore. like you can pretty much touch the site. You can go inside like some of the houses, and there's not a lot of like kind of security or police presence, which is really good about it.
Yeah, we just had one guide for about 20 people, wasn't it? Maybe 15 people.
He regularly let us loose. So when we went.
Yeah, when we climbed up to the top, he didn't want to climb up to the top, and neither did some of the old people in the group.
So that little house that we went in, it was almost like a maze. The different, like, something that looks so small on the outside. It
was incredible.
Vast in there. So many little rooms and staircases going every way, direction.
Yeah, I've also been a lot further south, a place called Merzouga. And that's where the Sahara Desert sand dunes are. So,
did you do the overnight camping?
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't know. But we did spend a day, like me and my wife, in the sand dunes, and one of the interesting things that we got to do was we tasted like camel milk. I don't know if you've ever tried that.
No, never.
No.
I think I've had camel on a burger, but never tried camel milk.
Yeah, and they actually taste like milkshake, believe it or not. Kind of like vanilla milkshake. Yeah, you wouldn't expect it. It's kind of sweet and thick, like naturally.
Yeah, interesting. It makes sense there is a thing.
But never really thought that camels have milk.
Yeah, I suppose the kind of like cows of the desert. I don't know.
Desert cows.
Yeah.
And also got buried in the sand. Apparently, it's a therapeutic and a natural ailment. That was a good experience.
Oh, sounds it.
I bet it was very warm.
Well, I don't know. It can be quite cold underneath the sand, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. But are the dunes, are they quite mountainous? Are they quite high to climb?
Yeah. And obviously they go as far as the eye can see because they just go into the Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
So
we were just on the very edge, really.
Yeah, we didn't get
we're still claiming it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you used to go back, that is definitely an experience. And also the north of Morocco as well. There's a place that I visit quite a lot, Al Hoceima, which is not known to tourists, and I kind of like them kind of places.
I'm going to note that down. I might have to do a quick Google of that after the call, but I similarly love those places as well. And it's a shame that there aren't really many of those places left where it's either untouched or no one knows about it. So, yeah, I'll definitely have to check out the place afterwards, and if I go back again, then
add it to my route.
Add it to my very long list.
Yeah, I've got a few videos on it on my channel, so if you do want to check it out. But what I do find about Morocco is it's the cities that I don't really like so much, because there's obviously a lot of people and you don't get to kind of feel the Moroccan experience so much. So like Casablanca, Fez and Marrakesh are not the kind of places where I like to spend my time. So when you kind of trek out a bit more and go to some of the villages or the smaller towns and cities, you get a lot better experience.
No, that's completely true. It's one thing we neglected slightly in Marrakesh, but certainly things we've tried to do in other places we've been, so, Cuba, Vietnam, definitely like get into those little villages there, and you really see the way of life that's not the commercialized version. It's not
tourist.
Yeah, exactly. You actually see and how life is actually lived, which is probably still as similar to how it's been for maybe hundreds of years.
Yeah, and you meet nicer people as well, because the people are a lot more genuine.
Yeah, probably less trying to sell you things.
Yeah, genuine and just
a lot
and interested. And so that's definitely one thing we had in Cuba, is talking to the local people. I know Cuba's getting a little bit more touristy now, but still that everyone's interested in where you're from and why are you here? Where are you traveling to? You can actually have good conversations. Then also get local knowledge of what else is nearby.
Yeah, they're all really keen to show off their country, and
which is great. Like, you can travel to that small little village to see local people, but then they could say, oh well, actually if you go a mile down the road in this bus, you'll come to a beautiful waterfall that you also never knew existed, or something like that. And it's really it's really great when you can stumble across those absolute hidden gems.
So Cuba, was that cheap? Because I know that their currency is quite low, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the flights weren't too bad to get over there, and then once we were there, things were pretty cheap.
There's two currencies in Cuba. One of them, the tourist currency, is linked to the dollar. So $1 is one
Okay.
Yeah, CUC, and then they have CEP,
which is
the
Cuban people. So that's the local peso. And also the local people still have ration books, for example. It's still there's still a blockade on certain products there. So the local people use the separate currency, whereas then tourists will use one linked to the dollar, and it's still cheap. But you'll still pay
couple of pounds for a meal.
Couple of dollars, and you might get a local Cuban mojito, and might cost $4, but the amount of rum they put in it, you only need one of them, to be honest. But it's still cheap, and you don't really stay in hotels. So Havana is touristy in a way.
Yeah, and Varadero, which we didn't go to.
Yeah, the resort town.
Beach resort town.
But if you sort of take a few streets back, and you'll get a meal for a couple of dollars. In the rest of the country as well, I say there's no hotels, so local families rent out rooms in their house. They're called casa particulares.
Yeah, casa particulares.
And for not many dollars at all, maybe $10-15, you'll get a room
and breakfast,
and I think dinner as well. Sometimes if you pay dinner and unlimited tea and coffee, and then of course the experience of living with a local Cuban family, which tend not to know much English.
Yeah, it was mostly just Spanish.
So in
hand gestures.
Yeah, so in very limited Spanish, but then it's the same experience as you were saying. So you just then that's how you actually learn about the people, and it's a really great experience. I loved Cuba. Absolutely loved it.
It was fantastic.
So how many families did you stay with whilst you were over there?
Oh, it must have been 6 or 7.
Yeah, Vineyard. So Havana first time Vineyards, Belaga, Trinidad.
Yeah, and then
maybe 5.
Havana again at the end.
Yeah, 5 or 6 different families on our loop round, which is it's really nice. And then we stayed in a hotel for the last 2 nights, was it, or 1 night?
Yeah, we just last 2. I think we treated ourselves and stayed in the Hotel Nacional,
which is famous. It's quite famous historically. I think that's where Russian premiers and US presidents have stayed over the years and stuff. It's still not that expensive, though, really, isn't it?
No, it wasn't too bad. But...
Yeah. That, for a lot of people who are probably watching this, still probably find that quite strange, to stay with another family. Even myself, I've never really done that. I know people, do a lot of couch surfing and that kind of stuff, and it might be normal for them. So was it your first time doing something like that, or have you done something like that before?
We've done some homestays in big groups on our Vietnam trip, because we did that with Intrepid Travel on an organised tour.
So that's where they kind of built a sort of an annex to their property. So it was a homestay, but you didn't feel like you're actually living in a home.
Whereas this one, we were quite literally living in someone's house.
But then, having not done that previously, and now because we've done that, it actually felt quite nice and normal. Now we're thinking about, actually, next time we do stuff, maybe we'll do some couch surfing. Yeah. So it's maybe like a bit of a stepping stone to getting to do that sort of thing.
Was you apprehensive in doing that in the first place, or were you really keen on it?
We weren't really sure what the facilities and things would be like. We're whether we'd actually have things like aircon, or would we be sharing a bathroom with loads of other people. But most of them actually had their own little bathroom for your room, or
right.
Yeah, so it was so much better than we were expecting. We were expecting rustic, which Cuba, I think we were quite prepared for that, but actually the quality was a lot better.
Yeah, it was actually better than we expected.
Whereas when we were actually staying in hotels in Vietnam, the quality was even worse than these casa particulares in Cuba. So it was definitely positive.
And I'm guessing you got to try genuine homemade food as well then?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, mostly for breakfasts, which were really nice.
Sort of fruit omelettes.
Yeah.
Cheese and meat and things.
Yeah. But because it's Cuba,
homemade juices.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They were amazing.
Fresh juice, absolutely beautiful. And then because they've got limited produce in the country, that sort of a lot of the meals, even in these casas or in restaurants that you'll visit, quite samey. They don't get. There's not a huge variety of food on menus, but it still tasted great. So and you never go hungry. There's always too much food, too much these. So that they live on rations themselves, and they're just so generous with everything that they have. So it's just it's a really really nice experience.
Yeah. And what was the most memorable part of the trip? What would you definitely take back and always remember about that trip?
For me,
so
it will
much.
be having a farmer in the local tobacco fields in Vinales hand rolling me some cigars.
And to stick with the Vinales theme, we went to a salsa club in the evening one day. We were the only tourists there. Everybody else was locals. And it was just incredible. Everyone was having the best time.
Yeah, all the Cuban men coming asking the ladies to dance and stuff.
Yeah.
It was
just
no one asked me to dance. That's fine.
Yeah, that's amazing when you get to have a real cultural experience. Is there anything that compares to that to any other trip that you've done?
I'm not sure.
So the homestay in Vietnam was...
Yeah, the second one we did was really good. The villagers all came out and did dances for us and then got us to join in with their traditional dances.
Which maybe was a little bit sort of staged, but the fact that the only way we could get to the village was by taking a boat across a lake.
Having hiked for about 4 miles.
So it was genuinely icy in basically what was the Vietnamese Lake District.
Felt like we were in Jurassic Park a little bit.
Just the scenery was beautiful, and such a laid back place as well. So I think that would be there for me.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
And Vietnam, is that a place that you'd always wanted to go, or how did that come about in you traveling there?
It'd been on my list for quite some time. It's quite early in us.
Yeah, it was the first big trip that we took together.
So it was on my list even before then. So it was just quite an easy decision to both go. But
I'd been to Southeast Asia before, and I'd had to miss the Vietnam leg because I was still working, and my friends who went were students. So I'd only done half the trip, and I'd missed Vietnam and Cambodia. So I'd been pretty keen to go anyway.
And we did we did south to north of the entire length of the country, well, almost the entire length of the country. But because we did it in 2 weeks and it's such a vast place, we felt like it was rushed.
Yeah, we could have done with an extra week.
So it's now probably back on the list again, just to go and do it maybe a little bit more slowly, or go and see.
Yeah, we didn't go to Sapa or do the Hajang Loop or any of the sort of more northern stuff. So it'd be good to go do that. Yeah,
but we've managed to do big things like the Halong Bay, cruising in Halong Bay for a night or two was amazing.
That's incredible.
And what was your main form of transport during your travel?
Overnight trains.
Oh wow!
They were an experience.
They were
again, actually not as bad as we were expecting.
No. So I'd done them before in China, but actually I'm going to add China to my list as well of amazing cultural experiences. But in Vietnam, they weren't too bad. A couple of cockroaches were sighted at times, but other than that, actually managed to get some sleep.
Yeah.
And were the self-contained rooms, or were you sharing with other people?
We shared with 2 other people, but because we were on an organised tour again, they were people from our tour.
Okay.
I think that's the standard first class. I think on most of these trains, it's four bunks,
and then you get six,
and then it's just seating. So even the top most expensive is still sharing with a couple of people potentially.
Yeah, that's amazing. And were the rides quite long then, I suppose?
Yeah, I think we had an 8, a 10, and a 12-hour or something like that.
Yeah, and I think the 12-hour one was saved to last, was it?
Yeah, and one of them was delayed by a bit as well.
So by that time, it was getting a little bit tedious. So we were glad it was the last one. But it was all in all, it was quite because they were night trains. I guess we got to miss some of the amazing scenery out the window, apart from when you wake up in the morning. But it wasn't too bad. I would probably do another one. Yeah,
I'd do it again, definitely. It was convenient.
And it's an interesting experience. I suppose not just you seeing amazing scenery, but take a walk down the train and you can go and interact with other people as well. Yeah.
And is there anything that kind of surprised you about the trip? Anything that you weren't expecting? Or do you kind of account for everything, like when you go on these kind of trips?
I think the things that probably were so we've both done elements of Asia before, but I hadn't done a chaotic city in quite some time. So when we first got to Ho Chi Minh City,
that's true. The road crossing and
it felt very overwhelming. And the road crossing in Hanoi and stuff as well, and the big cities where you just the roads are 6 lanes each.
Full of bikes
and there's no
trucks.
traffic lights. If there was traffic lights stopping traffic, then no one would ever move ever. So you just have to hit a spot
And go.
and walk and hope for the best.
Wow.
Things like that were quite surprising.
Yeah, that was a bit unexpected.
As someone who's a big appreciator of spicy food, I love chilies, but having noodles for breakfast in Vietnam certainly wakes you up at 7 a.m. Some of the hottest chilies I've ever had in my life have been put in my noodles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I struggled a bit. I wasn't a big meat eater at the time. Still not a huge meat eater, but I'm a lot better than I used to be. But not a lot of vegetarian food in Vietnam. So
Really?
I
Wow.
did find that a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, it could be a bit tricky if that's the thing. But then the other key thing for me, and I say we didn't even do some of the mountains and stuff in the north, but I think just the scenery, the landscapes, probably actually still the best I've ever seen in my life, I think, in Vietnam.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
In regards to food and stuff, are you guys quite adventurous, or do you try to stick to safe options?
I'll try almost anything. So in Vietnam, for example, they used to be able to get snake blood vodka and things like that. And I did try to find these things, but I think now they're not quite most tourists wouldn't try it. I guess they've maybe gone off the market. But yeah, I'd be up for trying most things, and Vietnam's certainly a place for that. I think similarly the other place, as I mentioned, China before, it's one of the first places I've ever had things like toad and donkey and catfish and stuff, which at the time I'd never come across that as a food source in my life. But yeah, now I would definitely try anything. I know in Cambodia in the south you can have deep fried tarantula and
which
stuff.
You could not pay me to eat that.
I'd be up for at least trying the leg or something. So is that the same for you? Are you a foodie on tour, or?
I try to be. The thing is, I'm a lot more open now than I was like growing up, because when I was growing up I didn't travel a lot, so I didn't get to experience a lot of different type of foods. Generally, when I first started traveling, I stuck to a lot of safe options. In recent years, I think I'm a bit more experimental, but I'm a bit restricted with diet, because I only eat halal food, and like Rhonna, I'd stick to a lot more vegetarian kind of stuff. So that kind of sometimes restricts me to kind of places I want to travel, because I really want to go to like South America, and I know they're quite big on different types of foods and stuff, which I probably wouldn't try.
Yeah, I mean,
for that reason, I'm very much looking forward to going to India. I feel like I'll get on well with the food there.
Yeah, that would be. But yeah, no, I suppose it is a shame. And sometimes, if you do have such a strict dietary requirement, and then you have a language barrier as well, I guess you can never trust whether something is actually genuine what you want.
That's true. I did have the vegetarian option in Vietnam was chicken at one point. Everyone else was fish, and they bought me chicken. So,
wow.
Yeah.
First day, I had to break my no meat rule.
That is a shame. Like, it is a bit difficult when, because different cultures see food in a different light, I suppose. Whereas I guess like in the UK and many places, we're quite lucky that things are labelled up correctly and separated. Because one of the things I found even strange about Spain was that like the alcohol is not separated from like normal drinks. Like you'd get you'd open a fridge, and next to like, I don't know, like the orange juice, you've got, sangritas and stuff like that. Different countries treat things different, I suppose, in regards to food and drink.
Yeah, absolutely. And then sometimes I guess you get those countries that are a bit poor as well. So Cuba, for example, whilst the food was nice and there was quantity, but if there was something you didn't like on it, and you wouldn't be able to have it replaced, because that's all they have, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes
so
I
again,
guess
I ended up eating stuff that I probably wouldn't usually, because
it can be
they
tricky.
have so little, so you don't feel like you can turn it down.
Yeah, exactly, which I guess you can get in some places in South America, Asia, and Africa as well. I guess I'm sure there'll be a time when I'll have to be vegetarian in some certain places, like India.
We might have to eat some vegetables. God forbid.
So we're getting up towards the end of the show. So what I wanted to ask you, because I had 3 trips cancelled like last year due to coronavirus. Did you guys have any cancelled or?
So had 3, if I'm thinking rightly, because we had so Panama was cancelled. We had a 3-week backpacking trip around Panama.
Oh wow, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, we're still pretty gutted.
We were pretty devastated.
My Panama guidebook is still sat right in front of us.
2-3 weeks the lockdown started before we were supposed to go, or something like that. Oh yes, now I know the third one as well. Yeah, Spain, which we replaced with Venice.
So that wasn't the end of the world. And then Luxembourg, we're supposed to go for a weekend in November, sort of check out the Christmas markets.
I'm guessing you've been to Spain before, right?
Yeah. We were going to go to, was it Malaga we booked to go to?
Yeah, it was just, it was
an area we hadn't been before, cheap flights.
Yeah, but we were in Barcelona the year before that. And yeah, I've done Madrid, you've done the islands.
Yeah, I've done Mallorca and things. So.
Yeah, Malaga's nice. I do like Malaga. It's one of my favourite cities in Spain.
So, yeah, we thought it would be interesting to explore.
Yeah, my cousin lived there for a year and had a great time, so I knew there'd be good stuff. But I think, top of our list now would be Seville, I think.
Yeah, that's a good potential birthday option for me.
Yeah.
Not this year, probably, but because it will still hopefully be warm there.
Yes.
In February, March. So.
And Luxembourg, what was your plan to do? Is it skiing? Did they have a ski resort or?
For me, it was more wine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just a city break. We'd literally booked to go on the Saturday morning and come back Sunday night.
Yeah, there's not much. I've been there before, and there's very little. You don't need more than a day there, really. But it's on the German border of Luxembourg, is where a lot of Moselle wine is, and I fancied a wine trip. So.
Yeah, we kind of booked it on a whim, actually.
We booked it completely at random. Booked it
we booked it back in sort of July or something for November.
Yeah, so
we got optimistic there.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, never mind.
Have you got any trips booked for next year yet? Have you taken the risk?
No. I'm finding it really hard because I obviously don't know what the restrictions will be for the country you're visiting. You don't know what the restrictions will be in our country for quarantine, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't book anything for last year, basically. I did see some of the travel corridors, but they were constantly changing as well.
Yeah, we only missed out on being quarantined coming back from Turkey by 3 days. Yeah. We came back on the Monday, and you had to quarantine from the Thursday. So we were quite lucky there.
No, we're taking the same approach as you now, really. I think we wanted to try and get away in February or somewhere like that, but I think it's
not looking good.
No.
Need it for a while.
So what does 2021 hold for you guys in regards to travel?
Well, we're hoping to go on a big adventure since we didn't get to go on our Panama adventure.
We'll get a big one in, sort of maybe like a 3-week trip.
Considering South America somewhere.
Yeah, he'll be wherever lets us in, but certainly I'd like to think once vaccinations are rolled out a bit more and we get towards the summer months when sort of things like coronaviruses weaken anyway. Hopefully by sort of May onwards we'll be able to get that big trip in, but who knows where it will be.
Yeah, so not planning at the moment, no.
No, we'll have a few options maybe and see which one looks most likely nearer the time.
Yeah, so like with myself, I think I'll have another trip to Morocco maybe in the summer. But what I'm thinking about is maybe going down on a motorbike or something like that, because I do ride as well. So I might go straight down on the way there and then take the long way back and try to tick off a few countries that I haven't been to in Europe.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, nice. Going back to the Vietnam thing, so you've probably seen this, but if you ever went there and rented a motorbike, it's one of the most one of the most amazing motorbiking road countries in the world. But yeah, that sounds great. So you're so free and liberating doing things as and when you want.
Good adventure.
Yeah, I sadly can't ride a bike, but
no.
Yeah, like Vietnam and I think Thailand, they're quite known for them kind of things, aren't they, in regards to like the bike adventures and stuff like that. So they're definitely on my list as well. But yeah, I suppose in regards to backpacking adventures, you could only do them up to a certain kind of age, and then before you kind of feel tired of them. So it's kind of good to kind of fit them all in.
That's my concern, because I'm now on the wrong side of 30, so it's how long can we stay in hostels and have drinks with people who are now significantly younger than me. So it's how many more years are left, which is why coronavirus has been such a stickler, really, because it's taken a year off the limited time I had already.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys get to experience some travel this year. Like, obviously, nobody knows what's gonna happen in regards to the virus and travel, and especially with talks in relation to passports and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just hope that we have some sort of normality where we can kind of enjoy travel again.
Definitely,
yeah, and like for yourself as well, and look forward to following your adventures on your YouTube as well.
Seeing that first trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone's looking forward to this first trip.
For sure.
But yeah, guys, it's been great having you guys. Anything you guys want to say before we wrap up the show?
Just thank you to you. So this is our first time doing one of these, so it's really nice to actually.
It's been really good fun.
Yeah, it's been very good fun. So yeah, wish you the best of luck with it as well. And hopefully, if we do see you out on the road anywhere, we'll just make sure we don't book any paragliding or anything like that.
Keep to land-based activities.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Craig and Rhonna, it's been great having you guys, and hopefully we'll speak to you again in the future.
Thank you so much for having us.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Take care. Thank you. Bye. Bye.